Hey guys, it's your boy M.K.S back with another video. I know I mentioned recently that I would try and do different videos, but I don't think I mentioned I wouldn't do any of this videos, so I hope I didn't promise that, because I don't make promises I couldn't keep. But I thought I'd do another one of my list videos just because this issue is quite an important one to me, especially in March, because it's the month I've chosen to try and empower and support and generally empower and generally support Indigenous people from across Australasia. So I hope I haven't covered these points too much before, but anyway, as I say, this is going to be in this video, but I'm going to try and do videos in different formats, like some in story formats or some in list formats. So anyway, I hope you enjoy it, and sorry if I'm waffling, but here's some of the goals I have basically for supporting and empowering Indigenous people from Africa and Australasia, actually, come to think of it. So here goes. So number one, I'd love to put together a social enterprise or NGO, or a group of social enterprise or NGOs that can come together and have the shared goal of empowering and generally supporting Indigenous people from across Australasia and Africa to network together. I think the first thing would be to help them to network together and support each other and that sort of thing. Number two, I think building together allies which learn from each other, and also Indigenous Australasians and Africans teaching each other what skills they know. I probably have covered that point a little bit before, but yeah, so I think it'd be really cool if people who are from Africa and Australasia who are good at technology or whatever other areas, science, tech, engineering, maths, business, or any other areas, could teach each other and pass each other on what knowledge they know, so they can empower each other as a networking team. Number three, I think it'd be great if NGOs, social enterprises, NGOs, charities, philanthropists, even business people, even governments from across Africa talked about what they were going to do, like governments from Africa, for instance, and even governments in Australasia, like the Australian Torres and Strait Pacific Island and New Zealand governments, talked about what they are going to do to empower their own people, their own Indigenous people, so that they can have representation, and also such things as like each possible Indigenous Australasian and African to have their own PC, laptop, and so-called mobile phone, and tech training equipment and apps and things like that, or things to train on, and maybe even be taught to create their own apps and things like that on their own websites, preferably ASAP. I'd love to achieve that goal by this year, or if not, maybe next year, but 2021 or 2022. So every Indigenous possible person from Africa and Australasia, from all ages as well, especially younger people, because they are the future really, would have their own tech training equipment. Number four, I would love to see Indigenous people from Africa who are going to join, instead of joining the military. No, it's a controversial idea I have to mention, but instead they would join the police force. So if they want to serve or find something constructive to do, instead of joining the military, they could join the police force, and maybe there could be pressure again on governments to ensure that X amount of the police force, I think it should be 10% of the police force of each community, would be made up of Indigenous people from that community, like the Australian police force of each area, to have 10% of Indigenous people from those backgrounds, and the same for the other countries within Australasia as the continent. A little bit different for Africa because they're not really a minority of where they originate from, unlike Australasians. So Aborigines, Torres and Strait Pacific Islands, and Maoris to make up 10% of the police force, and things like that, and the legal legislature, like solicitors, as we call them here in the UK. In America, they'd probably be called lawyers. I think that's the same sort of thing, but in America, I don't know what they call them in Australia. It's probably lawyers, but I'm not 100% sure. But basically, those who represent people in court, so they have more representation, and also judges, even to be Indigenous Australasians, like 10% in each of those countries and communities, so they can represent their communities and make sure they get a fair trial. Not that they can get away with breaking law. I think they should still be held to the same laws as everyone else, but that just so they get equal treatment. And also there could be human rights groups that work together to ensure that they do get legal rights and international representation, as I've talked before about. And I hope that will be an ongoing process. It might take a while, but hopefully if we start now, the earlier we start, the quicker we can develop those sorts of things. So hopefully, even if I want these things to be done within the next 5 or 10 years, or by 2030 or whatever, I think that starting now would give us more opportunities to do so. Number five, I think it'd be great to listen to Indigenous Australasian views, opinions, and also give them a voice. I'd say even 10% of politicians, I think, should be Indigenous Australasian, and also just generally having a voice, and also like being able to talk about their culture, but being able to talk about their aspirations and that sort of thing. Number 6, I would love to see Indigenous Australasian. As a fan of Italian football, sorry if I repeat these ideas again, but as a fan of Italian football, I'd love to see Italian football having football academies. I'd love to fundraise for them to have football or soccer, if you prefer, or Calcio academies in all possible communities, all possible countries. And I think it would be a world first to have football academies for Indigenous Australasian communities, Aborigines, Torres and Strait Pacific Islanders and Maoris. As I say, I don't know if any other soccer teams have had that, so it'd be great to see Italian teams be at the forefront of that, in my opinion, to be the first to do so, and then maybe the MLS and local leagues and even the Premier League and others would follow suit. But it would be great, hopefully, for Italian football, so hopefully it would be a mutually beneficial thing. Number 7, I'd love to see the same thing done for Celtic as well, to be the first to have those academies, soccer academies or Calcio or football or whatever you call it, whatever you want to call them. I'd love to fundraise for those sorts of things. Number 8, I'd love for Indigenous Australasians and Africans to practice an hour a day at least in STEM subjects like science, well, basically stands for science, tech, engineering and maths, so they would have those opportunities and encourage mentors, teachers, trainers, volunteers and people with those skills, obviously, to go and teach them either online or even in schools, and even when they finish schools, to have extracurricular activities which can help them for the future, to be empowered in those areas. So I love for people from across Africa and Indigenous Australasians to have that hour a day at least in each of those. So maybe even 1 hour science, 1 hour tech, maybe engineering for an hour and maths for an hour. So each of those subjects, and also maybe to make it into a game, and so it can be fun, so they enjoy doing so, and also that African governments, I forgot my train of thought, but yeah, African governments also giving their citizens, as many of their citizens as possible, PCs, laptops, training equipment, and again, an hour a day in each of those STEM subjects, or even more, maybe as many hours as possible in those areas, and support them in software development as well, STEM generally. Number 9, I'd love to see Indigenous Australasians and Africans make money from their writing and art, being able to express themselves, and also being taught to budget. From what I've seen in YouTube videos and things like that, there's a lot of Indigenous people from Australasia, especially Aborigines, who have their own art, but when they sell it, they don't manage to keep the money that they make. So it'd be great if they had a way to have bank accounts and things like that, which help them in that area. And number 10, on that note, I think it'd be great if they had training in banking, business and other areas as well, which will hopefully empower them in the future. I'd also love to see, as I've said before, like Indigenous people, Indigenous Australians have at least 10%, well, say 10%, that's quite a lot, but 10% of the property and land and even tax receipts of their respective countries, so that they would be able to have more empowerment in that way as well. So, and that's a very ambitious goal, but maybe by 2030 they could have 10% of all property and land ownership, excuse me, and also 10% of all tax receipts could be spent in their communities by 2030 as well. But I hope to start these projects ASAP, so that the earlier we start, as I say, if it takes a while, if it takes 5 to 10 years, at least if we start now, it will be done. Whereas if we wait till 2030, it will probably take longer. So anyway, I hope this was fairly interesting and people out there enjoyed it, and I am out. Peace and love. P.S. Please let me know what you think as well, what your ideas would be, or what rights you think or support you think Indigenous Australasians should have. Thanks.